Hey everyone, sorry for not uploading videos in recent times. I had priorities to deal with, either way. Today I present, What If the Avengers Were in the Tournament of Power, from Dragon Ball Super, Part 1. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Now please enjoy. 6 months after the events of WandaVision. Who could have predicted that something like this could happen? Wakanda. Dressed in an outfit worthy of a funeral, Stephen Strange watched as the funeral procession passed him by. Sitting at his side, Wong was just as still as he was, dressed the same way. All around the duo, a crowd of people, dressed in different African clothing styles, sadness on their faces. Today, the world was experiencing a huge loss and Wakanda was the place where this burial was taking place. Marching in front of Stephen was an entire group of men and women, dressed as warriors, holding spears, along with a multitude of sacred objects. The procession lasted several minutes, before the two sorcerers could finally see a dozen men who had arrived with a huge golden coffin encrusted with precious stones and where two huge panthers had been engraved. And the man who lay inside was none other than T'Challa, the king of Wakanda. His death had shocked the world. The man had fought alongside the Avengers to restore half the universe at the hands of the mad titan Thanos. Therefore, when this battle had taken place no less than a year ago, who would have guessed that the king of Wakanda ended up being forced to stop, when he had to face a tumor in the brain? Regardless of his superhuman powers and the advanced technology of Wakanda, the man had eventually passed away peacefully in his sleep, leaving the country once again without a king. Letting the entire motorcade pass in front of him, Stephen soon followed, as did Wong and the rest of the crowd surrounding them. It was true that the master of the mystic arts had not developed any real relationship with the king of Wakanda. Nevertheless, considering him a comrade during the battle against Thanos, the former sorcerer supreme had felt obliged to attend his funeral, out of respect for his courage and his decisions which managed to maintain the peace of his country. However, he was not the only Avenger to attend the funeral. Stephen spotted an elderly Steve Rogers among the pallbearers, as did Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson. Finally arriving in front of a cliff, the procession disappeared inside a huge cave. Walking a few more minutes, the procession ends its walk by arriving in a cavity, where mysteriously, a baobab tree was. At its foot, a dozen tombs lay, showing the number of kings that Wakanda had known and who had had the honor of being buried in this sacred place. Then, the people at the head of the procession moved aside and formed two perfect columns to let the coffin pass. Heading towards a hole already dug, the pallbearers began to gently place the coffin in the hole. Standing among the crowd, Stephen saw Okoye hitting the ground with her spear, while letting out a chant. Imitating her, the other warriors of Wakanda struck the ground with their spears whilst letting out an identical chant. Repeating this gesture 20 times, they ended up stopping when the coffin was set at the bottom of the hole. Then, the new priest of Wakanda advanced towards the hole, before beginning to formulate a prayer whose properties will be able to allow the soul of T'Challa to be able to join the world of the spirits where the ancient heroes of Wakanda reside. Observing all this, Ramonda, T'Challa's mother, Queen of Wakanda, kept her head held high and managed to maintain a stoic demeanor during the burial of her child. Beside her, Shuri, the younger sister of T'Challa, was unable to imitate her. A handkerchief hid her eyes, while tears were visible on her cheeks. At the end of the prayer, various sacred objects were placed above the coffin. And finally, the earth began to cover the resting place of T'Challa. In just a few moments the hole had been completely sealed. Still standing in front of the tomb, the priest crouched down and used his finger to make rustic designs in the earth. Then, getting up, he declared, "Wakanda, today is not a day for our tears to flow. On the contrary, let us rejoice that the soul of our king can join the world where resides the spirit of the great heroes that Wakanda had the choice to know. But, I am certain that his soul will remain with us, until the ceremony is over. Therefore, do any of you have something to say to him before his ultimate journey into the beyond?" Ramonda, Shuri, Okoye and M'Baku all gave a speech about T'Challa, celebrating his accomplishments and what he meant to each of them. Finally Steve Rogers stepped forward, giving a slight bow to Ramonda before speaking. The first time I met T'Challa we were playing on opposite sides of the field. The Sokovia Accords had just come into effect, which caused a divide within the Avengers. Tony Stark believed that the Avengers should have been a private organization, operating under the supervision of a United Nations panel, only when and if that panel deemed it necessary. I on the other hand believed that the Avengers should have been given the right to choose. Even after going against the Accords and becoming a fugitive, T'Challa offered to help my closest friend and opened Wakanda up to me. Steve sighed slightly. It was only then I realized how similar we were, two men, fighting for what they believed in. T'Challa was one of the bravest and most humble men I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. Not only did he help his people of Wakanda, he also saved the world when it needed him the most, and for that, myself and the Avengers are forever grateful. Not only do I consider him an Avenger. Crouching down, he placed his hand on T'Challa's grave, he declared. I consider him a friend. I wish him eternal rest. Farewell, my friend. Steve then placed a heart-shaped herb on his grave, symbolizing the power of the Black Panther. Seeing him get up, Okoye nodded, before hitting the ground again with her spear. The warriors immediately let out battle cries, while the rest of the crowd began to chant, "Thanks for coming." Shaking hands with Steve Rogers, Stephen Strange affirmed, "Every hero deserves the recognition he deserves." Ever since returning to the past, I've spent most of my time here in Wakanda, so I haven't kept up much with outside news. The deaths of Tony and Natasha still affect me even now. You'd think that being gone for so long I would have moved on. But I still think of them every day. It was a difficult time for everyone, Stephen admitted as she leaned back against the wall. Clint has officially retired to focus on his family. Same goes for Scott, though as far as I'm aware he's still active. You know, for a while I thought of Scott as immature, but after what happened, we would have never been able to complete our plan without him. On a brighter side, I heard Bruce's arm is beginning to heal. It seems the gamma within his blood has bypassed the damage that the gauntlet did. Last I heard, his arm should be fully healed within a couple of years. As for Thor, he's gone back into space, haven't heard from him since. After the decimation happened, Thor got hit the hardest. I hope wherever he is now he finds peace in knowing that we won. And as for Stark Industries, I heard that the entire company has been handed over to Tony's wife, Miss Potts. Steve let out a light chuckle as he sighed. I miss them all, what we had. Even when we fought, we were a team. Nothing will change that. Strange. Stephen turned his head and saw that Wong had created a teleportation circle. Knowing it was time to go, he shook Steve's hand. Wong walked through the portal and Stephen followed from behind, but before leaving he turned to Steve one last time. Take care, Cap. New York. They didn't mention the events related to Westview and Wanda. Wong remarked. I don't think anyone knows where she is. I haven't been able to locate her even with tracking spells. Strange stated. Only Vision could have known. If you ask me, her guilt prevents her from returning to the Avengers. Walking down a corridor, Stephen stopped in front of a chessboard. Removing 2 white pawns, he declared. Wanda Maximoff and T'Challa. After Clint Barton, Vision, Natasha Romanoff, and Tony Stark, our numbers are down again. Nevertheless, seizing a red pawn and placing it on the chessboard, he asked. How's your newest recruit? Shang-Chi? Let's say we are still teaching him the true history of our world and all the potential dangers he'll face. When it comes to his training, I believe Kamar-Taj is the best place for him to improve his new skills. Though the rings his father possessed do intrigue and worry me. So we can hope he will join our ranks. Strange remarked, looking at the opposite side of the chessboard, which was completely empty. For now, the black pawns have disappeared along with Thanos. However, evil will never go away and is ever present around us. Letting go of our guard and foolishly thinking that Thanos' death will bring peace will only bring death closer from us. Words filled with wisdom. I'm glad to see you're still the same, Master Strange. A strange voice spoke. Startled somewhat, Wong immediately turned around. On the contrary, being perfectly stoic, as if expecting to hear this new voice, Stephen turned around most calmly, while affirming. It's Dr. Strange. Opposite the duo had just appeared the Ancient One, their former master. The person who saved Stephen from his emotional self-destruction and granted him the right to give him a new reason to live. However, her body, far from acting like that of a living being, was transparent like a ghost. Still, that didn't stop the woman from smiling at Stephen. "You haven't changed a bit, Doctor Strange." For his part, Wong positioned his hands in prayer, before greeting the Ancient One. "Ancient One, it is a huge honor for us to receive your visit." "A visit that, I imagine, hides an alarming reason," Stephen stated, suspecting that his former master would never have come here for a simple courtesy visit. "Aside from using dark magic, I thought it was impossible to be able to communicate with the dead." "Indeed, normally this should be impossible." "How did you manage to appear in front of us?" Wang asked. "It's easy to explain. There is a barrier between the world of the dead and that of the living. Normally, nothing can break this barrier and allow the dead to join the living. However, a rift has appeared in this immense wall." "How can this be explained?" "This phenomenon must have something to do with the constant use of the Infinity Stones. You see, prior to Thanos collecting them they had never been brought together fully. Thus when Thanos used them to decimate half the universe, that was the first time they had been used in unison. This sudden outburst of immense power is what started this crack in the space-time continuum and weakened the wall that separates the dead from the living. And only 5 years later, both Bruce Banner and Tony Stark snapped once again, one restoring the universe, the other wiping away Thanos and his army. This is what fully awoke the rift. Not even the gods did not foresee such a phenomenon taking place." "The gods?" Stephen asked curiously. "That's why I came to join you. Stephen, I think I should take this moment to tell you about the creation of the universe." "Are you talking about the appearance of the Infinity Stones?" "In truth, the Infinity Stones have nothing to do with the appearance of the universe." The two men in front of her looked at each other then back at their old master, as they seemed to struggle to take in her revelation. "Sorry?" they said in unison. "Do you know what the multiverse is? A concept of which we know frighteningly little. Though I can confirm that our universe is just one among others. Like a galaxy, our universe is surrounded by other universes. All of this is possible because of one God. The one above all." "The one above all, I've heard rumors of such a being but never thought it to be true," said Wang. "We call him the one above all, they call him Zeno. The Omni King." "You talk about universes similar to ours but, how many are there exactly?" Stephen asked. "There are currently 12 separate universes that we know of. And compared to what you think, they are not actually similar to each other. In truth, they are very different. Billions of years ago, Zeno created them with the purpose of being able to use them to form the perfect society. He had consciously made mistakes when forming the first universes, to know how to improve the quality of his later universes. Using her powers, she then showed a hologram of a universe before creating others. Nevertheless, to enable this, Zeno entrusted this mission to his deities, the Kaioshin, whose role is to create life, and Likshin, whose role is to destroy it." "Destroy?" Strange repeated. "Creating life is not simple," explained the Ancient One. "Consider creation as a painting. Sometimes the painting is perfect and its creator decides to keep it. Other times, he makes a mistake and lets his colleague destroy it to form a better one. Those are the roles of the Kaioshin and Likshin. Thus, many universes were created, but many were also destroyed by Zeno's hand. Only 12 survived, the most successful. But none of them managed to obtain the title of the perfect universe. Of course, Zeno could have destroyed them, but the Daishinkan, an angel serving as a close advisor and guiding figure to Zeno, persuaded him that these pseudo-universes had the right to live and that, with any luck, one of them could become the perfect universe. So we're one of those 12 universes. Wang understood. Not exactly. Prior to the creation of these universes, Zeno had created 4 pseudo-universes. 4 prototypes, where he had decided not to incorporate any deities. She showed a hologram of 4 orbs, which she arranged in a row, showing their creation, letting time scroll until one of them disappeared. Unfortunately, Zeno quickly realized that without a god to maintain peace and order, these pseudo-universes were doomed to disappear. And without the need to destroy them, 2 other pseudo-universes disappeared. Only one has survived until today. Ours. So why did you come to tell us about this? Strange asked, trying to take in everything that had just been said to him. Is, by any chance, our universe also threatened with extinction like the others? As if to answer his question, another spirit appeared. This time it was an old man, whose aura seemed to belong to that of a great veteran. For that, let me continue to explain to you what you don't know. Then, greeting the 2 men, he declared, I am Odin, father of Thor. I remember. I helped your sons find you when you were on Earth. However, if I remember correctly, you were supposed to be dead too, said Stephen. As the Ancient One said, it is now easy for the dead who gained powers while alive to be able to pass through the breach into the world of the living. Hearing this, Wang looked concerned. Is Thanos capable of doing this? Best to avoid his return, even in astral form. Fortunately for us, Thanos is in a place that has taken him further away from the world of the living, compared to us. The Ancient One assured. He will never be able to take advantage of this breach. Yet, casually, Thanos may have almost saved our universe. Startled, Strange and Wong looked at the former king, before asking, what? Even before Thanos was born, I suspected something like this would happen. The Ancient One revealed. Our universe, since its creation, is only a prototype destined to disappear. For a long time, Zeno has been trying to improve other universes by experimenting on ours. And one of these tests was to reduce our population by 2. What was the purpose of this test? Without a Hookshun, the so-called bad planets are not destroyed and the population of the universe continues to increase while the resources they need decrease. To allow the survival of our universe, Zeno wondered if reducing our population would avoid the death of all. Hence the presence of Thanos who, after the destruction of his planet, received a premonition from the Living Tribunal. Said Odin. The Living Tribunal? Strange repeated. I've heard of this being. Wong declared. There is a myth about the presence of a supreme being within our universe. Indeed. The Living Tribunal is a being who receives orders from Zeno or the Daishinkan, when tests are to take place. He is also the one who reports on the consequences of these tests. He is not a real deity, but I think it's needless to say that his powers easily surpass ours. So this being allowed Thanos to create a plan to erase half of the universe and did nothing to help us stop him. Strange said, annoyance in his tone. Unless Zeno or the Daishinkan orders him to, he has no right to interfere in the mortal affairs. The Ancient One explained. Furthermore, he created celestials who in turn created the stars and worlds we see today, but that's all the tribunal is. Just like our universe, he is a prototype of true deities. Thanos did nothing to save the universe. Strange retorted. He only created chaos when the population of each planet found themselves unable to live without their loved ones. Deleting half of the universal population created many additional issues and halted the advancement of technology. Short term maybe. Odin agreed. But if we had waited, we may have seen the universe still present, and not destroyed as it was intended. The universe would have been destroyed? Wong repeated. Seeming angry to hear that, Strange growled. So what? Those who fought to revive us did it for nothing? Those who passed died in vain? We understand how you feel, Odin assured. Unfortunately, this has only brought us closer to the horrible fate that awaits us. Fate can be changed, Strange retorted. Suddenly, Stephen's soul was ripped from his body and his astral spirit found itself transporting away from Earth. No more than a few moments passed as he found himself in front of a being of immense size. So large in fact that Stephen was nothing more than a speck compared to the massive giant. The being floated in the middle of the void. Stephen noticed that there were no stars, no suns, nothing. The two floated in an endless black void. Separated from the rest of its body, its head consisted of 3 connected faces that hovered above its shoulders, whilst the being had nothing resembling a neck. Initially motionless, the giant eventually lowered its eyes somewhat, before using telepathy to communicate with Stephen. Stephen Vincent Strange. For the first time, the superhero didn't know who he was talking to. When he was the Sorcerer Supreme, Stephen's role was to watch over the entirety of reality and watch for threats that may be a threat to the universe. Asgardians, Deviants, Skrulls, Dark Elves, Xandarians. Stephen knew of them all, yet had never seen anything like this on such a scale before. "Who are you?" he asked. "In your language, they call me the Living Tribunal." Hearing this, Stephen frowned. But before he could say anything, the tribunal spoke. "I sense anger emanating from your mind. You are supposed to manage life in this universe and you dare let half of living beings disappear? What god are you to let that happen? What is better, save one and let 1,000 die, or save 1,000 for the life of one? You mean you would gladly sacrifice half of us? You are sorcerer, are you not? You know the role that you must partake, as goes the same for I. Gods. It's always the same. You play with the very fabric of space-time like it's your own playground, without any care of what implications might come from it. You create just to destroy. Have you even tried to step in and help the very mortals you aim to protect? Can mortals defy death? Can they prevent the destruction of a sun so that a new one may take its place? Can they change the outcome of an already predetermined destiny? Mortals do not have this kind of power. If you were like me, you would understand that what I'm doing keeps you alive. I refuse to live knowing that people died to allow this. What do you think we are? We mortals are able to face fate and change it to allow the future to become better. Among 14 million possibilities we were to succumb to the devices of Thanos, yet we mortals came together, changed fate and won. No matter what trials we face, no matter the danger, we will always succeed in preserving what we have." The tribunal was quiet for a moment before speaking up again. "Oh? In that case, I may have something that could preserve your universe and avert its imminent destruction." "Do you know who is the High Priest?" Living Tribunal asked. "I was given a quick summary about the deities and the creation of our universe. But if I'm not mistaken, he can be considered Zeno's assistant." "He's more of an advisor," retorted the telepathic voice of Living Tribunal. "But, in any case, I think you understand that he is very important. Moreover, having enormous responsibilities, I can affirm with certainty the authenticity of what he told me." "What are you talking about?" "Soon a tournament is going to take place." There was a silence. "So what?" Doctor Strange asked. "I don't care about their divine tournament or whatever. We were talking about the survival of the universe." "Exactly. This tournament is about the survival of our universe. Simply put, if you decide to participate and win this tournament, you will allow your universe to survive." Immediately, the anger left Strange's mind, who just stared at the huge golden golem. "I want details." "I don't." Living Tribunal retorted. "All the High Priest asked me to do was find a way to reunite 3 warriors from our universe. Once that was done, I would just have to teleport them to Zeno-sama's palace." "3 fighters? Are the representatives of our universe participating in the tournament?" "No. They will participate in the preliminaries. Our universe is a pseudo-universe. Compared to others, he must earn his right to participate in the tournament. And therefore, he must pass a test. And this test will have to be passed by fighters who will find themselves unable to participate in the tournament. And just to tell you another detail, it will be necessary to provide a full team for the tournament." Hearing this, Strange frowned. "Is this a joke? We have to pass this test, while not being able to use our best fighters? And how many people do we need for the tournament?" "No idea." "Sorry? If you're confident in your abilities, I'm sure you'll find the warriors you need. For my part, I have only one thing to say to you. Good luck." Then, before Strange could do anything, he felt his astral body being sucked back and in an instant, his soul re-entered his physical body. Startled, he caught his breath, which surprised Wang. "Strange?" Attempting to collect himself, the ancient doctor looked around, and noticed that his comrade and the astral bodies of Odin and the Ancient One were exactly where they had been before he encountered Living Tribunal. "How long has it been since I left?" Excuse me? Wang asked. Seeming as surprised, Odin frowned. Eventually, the trio heard the Ancient One affirm. During an interview with the Living Tribunal, only your soul is summoned and finds itself inside a dimension where time unfolds differently. No matter how long you spend there, not a second will pass. Will flow here. Living Tribunal? Wang repeated, looking at Strange. Did you really meet him? In response, Strange sat down in an ancient royal chair and rested his head in his hands. Then he declared, I don't even want to use my power to see the future. What's going on? Is our universe really doomed? Remaining silent at first, Strange eventually repeats everything Living Tribunal told him. Also hearing his explanations, the Ancient One declared, Living Tribunal and the High Priest are forbidden to lie regarding the potential destruction of the universe. We have no choice. If there is a way to save our universe, we must all do to orient ourselves towards this solution. And with which people? Strange asked. There will be a preliminary test and a tournament. And all we know is that we have to gather 3 people for the first test, and these people will not be able to participate in the tournament. Looking at his chessboard, where each white piece represented an Avenger still in activity, he declared, We have no idea how many fighters we will need for the tournament. 1, 2, 10, 100? How many fighters do we have available? Iron Man, Black Widow, Vision, Black Panther. They are all dead. Captain America is no longer old enough to fight. Wanda has decided to leave the Avengers. Hawk and Ant-Man have decided to devote themselves to their families. So, we're just left with. Wang began, raising several of his fingers. Captain Marvel, Thor, Spider-Man, Hulk, War Machine, Falcon, and you. 7 people. Strange summed up. So we can choose 3 people from them and save 4 for the tournament. But if this tournament requires 10, 15 or even 20 fighters, it would become highly problematic for us. Why not use your powers to see into the future? Wang asked. If I may say so, I can't let you do that. The Ancient One retorted. This tournament is a test imposed by Zeno-sama to show that our universe is worth saving. If we use Strange's powers to cheat, who knows how Zeno-sama might view it. Hearing this, Strange heaved a weary sigh, as he seemed to have gained 20 years in seconds. I would kiss you all if you told me this was all a bad dream. Keep your face serious, Odin advised. And decide whether or not you want to call on 3 Avengers to participate in this tournament. Good question. Strange said simply, unfortunately not having the slightest answer. Also seeming to think, Wang finally affirms. When you think about it, the Avengers aren't the only good fighters in our universe. Introducing himself, he declared. The preliminary round, I can participate in it. You? We have no choice. Nobody knows how many people the team will need for the tournament. Besides, the preliminary round will be of a much lower level than the tournament. It's a person like me who has to participate. Maybe, but who tells you that you have the level? And who says I don't have it? Wang retorted. You're not the only sorcerer supreme in this world. I've been given responsibility for our community's sacred grimoires only because I know how to make pancakes. Let's admit it. Strange said. Do you have 2 other potential proposals for the other candidates? We talked about one of them not long ago, Wang assured. Walking towards the chessboard, he picked up the red pawn that Strange had put down only a few minutes ago. Avengers potential recruit, Shang-Chi. Can we really entrust him with such a mission? I remind you that he still does not know how to use his new powers to perfection. He would need a few more months of training to exploit it to its full potential. I've seen him fight. He's ready for a fight and won't give up unless he loses consciousness or dies. I say with certainty that he is an excellent fighter. Not the strongest on our planet, but perfect for the preliminary round. And the last? Starting to think, Wang tried to list the options they had left. Should we hire former Avengers? Or else? Thinking he had an idea, he declared. I often train in a place called the Golden Shu Xiling's Golden Daggers Club in Macau. Strange finished. Are you forgetting that I know everything? So what? Who do you want to recruit among the fighters who put on their show there? My combat partner. His name is Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination. Is this a joke? This guy only has physical strength. He's not stupid. He's likely to act like Banner and let his urges take over his mind. I help him control himself. I would prefer someone else. Shrugging, Wang affirmed. If the event is a match where the three participants fight together, his strength could become an asset, while I would take care of all the strategy. Wang represents intelligence. Emil represents power. And Shang-Chi represents technique. Affirmed the Ancient One. Indeed, it is true that these three fighters complement each other. It is better to have three participants with opposing fighting styles. Strange showed he was unconvinced. However, thinking back to the tournament, he saw that it was not a bad strategy not to call on the Avengers for the preliminary test. Finally, he nodded. I don't think we have Joy. Perfect. In that case, gather your warriors as soon as possible and come back here. Odin advised them. Living Tribunal will pick you up. We wish you luck. The Ancient One affirmed, disappearing along with Odin. Seeing them leave, Wang couldn't help lowering his shoulders, as if something heavy was crushing them. Saviors of the universe? Responsibilities I wish I never had. It's in this kind of situation that I want to drink the bottle of sake I brought back from my last trip to Japan. You'll open it when the tournament is over. Strange retorted, creating a teleportation portal. In the meantime, I think you know where we're going. Disappearing inside his portal, he didn't hear Wang's weary sigh, who however ended up following him. Damage Control Supermax Prison. Finding themselves inside the famous American prison, the duo was surrounded by numerous cells where dangerous inmates were locked up. Not understanding what was happening, several of them began to shout. Hey, you! Come free us! How did you manage to escape? Get me out of my cell! Completely ignoring them, Strange headed for one cell in particular. Inside, a man was punching a punching bag, while turning his back on the duo who were now in front of his cell. However, eventually stopping, he asked. Did you bring me another workout buddy, Wang? Not even a hello? Wang questioned him. In response, Emil twisted his arm slightly and hit the punching bag so hard he sent it flying towards a wall before watching it fall to the floor. Then taking a deep breath, he turned to the pair, and looked at Strange. Avengers, I'm sure a lot of prisoners would feel unaware of having a visitor of your rank. You don't wonder why I came to see you? No, and I don't care. Emil affirmed. Since my fight against Banner, I've been locked up here and spend my days punching a punching bag, while I can't get out of here. Suddenly, his body took on its mutant appearance, and within seconds, Strang and Wang saw him raging in his cell. Yet, remaining motionless, the duo barely felt the vibrations caused by the Abomination's dots, hitting the door of his cell. The walls were too strong for the mutant to damage. Resuming his human form, he caught his breath for a few moments, before declaring. I don't know why the Avengers want to see me, but it's been years since I've been out here. So whatever happened outside, I'm innocent. Not out, not out. Strange repeated, pointing his thumb at Wang. You got permission. That doesn't count. This guy came to help me with my reintegration. Starting to chuckle, he declared. Like I need someone to figure out how to behave in the outside world. Just don't break anything. And you could live without transforming? Wang asked. Maybe. Emil said simply, with a sarcastic smile. Who knows how I would behave, once free. Then, seeming to be bored, he went to the bed of his cell, before lying down there. No matter what you came for, Do you want another leaf? Wang asked. Having barely had time to lie down on his bed, Emil turned his gaze to him. Macau? Not exactly, but it's for one game. And your power will come in handy. What's this guy got to do with it? Emil asked, staring at Strange. Gentlemen, I'm not bothering you, I hope. Turning around, Strange and Wang saw a troop of men behind, made up of soldiers and prison guards. and in front of them was a man with white hair and a mustache of the same color. Thunderbolt Ross, I presume. Strange said casually, despite the weapons being aimed at him. And Mr. Strange? The man replied. Doctor, please. Making a small face with his mouth, Ross nodded at Wang. I thought we had a contract with Mr. Wang regarding the rehabilitation of Mr. Blonsky. Any permission must be offered to me and accepted from me. Besides, do you think it's smart to suddenly appear in the center of the prison? It looks like you're here to start an escape. The Avengers are getting back to doing what they want. I'm not really an Avengers, Strange retorted. But that does not prevent me from doing what is necessary to act to ensure the safety of the population. Pointing his thumb at Emil, he declared. We need him. Can I know the reason? I imagine you are aware of the death of many Avengers? It's time for us to recruit new members. Huh? Emil and Ross wondered. The rehabilitation that Wang offers is not done for fun. The Avengers could potentially recruit our dear mutant friend. And today, we want to give him a series of tests, to find out if he is fit to work with us. Frowning, Emil looked at Strange, convinced that what he was saying was in no way the truth. Yet he remained silent. He was curious to know why Strange wanted him out of his cell at all costs. Avengers want him? Ross asked, raising an eyebrow. Haven't they had enough trouble with the Hulk already? It's precisely because Banner was part of the Avengers that he knew how to control himself. Wouldn't it be good news that Mr. Blonsky could become like him? Isn't that for me to decide? Asked the interested party. Thoughtful, Ross asked. If I refuse, is there any chance that I will come back here to find that my prisoner is no longer in his cell? It's likely to happen. Sighing, Ross looked undecided. However, he ends up confessing. My son, he had disappeared with half the population, 5 years ago, before coming back thanks to you. Staring at Strange, he declared. No matter where you plan to take him, he's your responsibility. Plus, tonight, I want him back behind bars, of course. Confirmed Strange. Then, making a teleportation circle appear, through the bars of Emil's cell, he let the man pass the circle to get out of his cell and find himself at his side. It's cool to have so many permissions. I could get used to it. In response, Wang suddenly created a spell that took the form of a Chinese tattoo on the man's arm. What? What is it? Just a spell that will prevent you from transforming whenever you want, Wang asserted. Hey, aren't you the one who keeps telling me that we need to build trust between us? Emil growled. It's thanks to me that you have this new permission. Don't ask too much. For his part, Strange made his teleportation circle disappear, to create a second one, whose destination was at the other end of the world. We'll be back to give it back to you. Then the trio disappeared. Talolo. Closing his eyes against a strong beam of sunlight, Emil groaned. Then, a few seconds later, he looked around to see an Asian landscape, where monsters from mythological myths could be seen frolicking, in the company of people, dressed in identical tunics. What? The ex-commander wondered. What planet are we on? We're still on Earth. Strange assured her. Specifically, we are in Nepal. Seeing a huge lion walking near them, Emil retorted. You're not going to make me believe that this kind of monsters exist on our planet? You say that? Strange wondered. At that moment, a dozen people, armed with bows and spears, positioned themselves in front of the trio, with perfect synchronization. Stop! Shouted a woman. Whatever the reason for your visit, please leave our village immediately. In response, Wang passed between Strange and Emil, before saluting the village. Recognizing him, the villagers lowered their weapons before imitating him. Seeing this, Emil asked. Is this where he trains to do his magic tricks? Do you think what we're doing is magic? Strange asked. No, but it seems complicated to understand. So, I prefer to call it magic. I understand you. Talking several seconds to the villagers, Wang ends up returning to his comrades, before affirming. We can go see Shang-Chi. I'll let you talk to him. I'm staying here with our friend. Just in case. Thank you for your trust. Emil growled, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Never mind. It's not like I came here for sightseeing. Simply nodding his head, Wang followed the villagers, and soon, finding himself in front of a training ground, he saw many people training. Forming 4 groups, each of these groups comprised warriors with different weapons. The first group performed sequences with their bare hands. The second group practiced with their spears. The third group trained in archery. And the last group were people with different weapons, facing a person who didn't seem to have any weapons on him. Standing still, Wang watched Shang-Chi face his opponents. Inhaling first, the man gestured with his arm, before tracing a semicircle on the floor with the toes of his right foot. Being in a combat position, he opened his eyes. That was the signal, as his opponents rushed towards him. Using only his hands, Shang-Chi dodged a punch, before putting a hand on an attacker's shoulder. Then spinning, it rendered him unable to react, before being thrown back where he came from. Then parrying a kick, Shang-Chi then dodged the tip of a spear, before hitting it and managing to break it in two. Arriving one by one, his opponents tried to take him by surprise or tire him out. However, despite their number, they ended up, little by little, being pushed back, while their number became less and less imposing. Remaining perfectly calm, stopped each of their assault, analyzed their movements, guessed their next moves, Wang saw him perfectly dominating the fight. Deciding to intervene in the fight, 3 archers took aim at Shang-Chi before firing. However, despite the speed of their projectiles, they did not hit the man. Standing still, Shang-Chi simply let rings position themselves in front of him and pin the arrows. Then, having his rings aligned, Shang-Chi joined them with his golden chakra to create a huge whip. Spinning his weapon, he created violent currents of air, which pushed his opponents back, before violently hitting the ground. Still remaining motionless, Wang saw cracks appear all the way to his feet, while the vibrations of the gesture were enough to knock down the opponents, who lost their balance. Making his weapon disappear, Shang-Chi let his comrades stand, before saluting them. Then, being the only one left on that part of the field, he let Wang come to him. Shang-Chi. Wang. Then there was a strange silence. Then, the younger of the two declared. It's not your style to come unannounced. Don't you like surprise visits? Let's say I'm now used to knowing when someone's mind is calm or not. Looking at Wang, as if scanning him, Shang-Chi questioned him. What's going on? Have you made a new discovery about the origin of my rings? In response, Wang waved him over, before leaving the field. I have to talk to you, my boy. TSSSS. The preliminary round? I feel like I'm considered a second-rate warrior. Despite Emil's grunts, Strange remained in a cross-legged position, hovering above the ground. Having to think, he tried to plan the first preparations for the real tournament. Unable to use his powers to see into the future, he could only speculate on how many people he would need. But in any case, he was sure he had to bring together the most powerful people he knew. And the first of them was at the other end of the universe. Captain Marvel. I have to find her. Then, hearing Emil continue to growl, Strange simply said. Be happy already to participate in this event. If I had been the only one to choose, I don't think you would have had the slightest chance of finishing on my list. Oh? So Wang came up with this idea? You must be really desperate. I have to admit, if the Avengers hadn't suffered so many casualties, we wouldn't have had any reason to come to you. Now what I want to know. He turned to the mutant. It's if you're willing to fight to protect the universe. Honestly, nothing is more important than my own life. Emil asserted. But don't worry. I don't intend to die. Smiling, he said. The opportunity to show off your power to gods? That doesn't happen every day. Doctor Strange? Startled, the two men saw a woman appear in front of them, and stare at Strange with sparkling eyes. It's you, isn't it? It's really you? Oh my god. I am your biggest fan. Huh, whose honor do I have? My name is Katie, affirmed the young woman. So, from what I understand, Thanos would have finally allowed our universe to survive. Shang-Chi remarked. Would you accept that? Wang asked. Not at all. Just like the rest of the world, Katie's family had lost half of its members and I also lost a lot of my friends. Sacrificing half of the universal population was not the solution we wanted. In that case, are you ready to help us? I can't even give you an answer. Because I don't know if I'm ready for such a tournament. If you weren't ready, I certainly wouldn't have recommended you. Facing Shang-Chi, Wang declared. For the moment, your training is far from over. Nevertheless, you already have the necessary skills to dare to challenge the Avengers. Today, tell yourself that this is your first test to show that the world can now trust you. Silent, Shang-Chi looked pensive. Then, finally, he declared. I had planned to visit Shu Xiling today. There is nothing worse than having to face her anger. Last time, she humiliated me in front of a whole crowd. I witnessed this humiliation, in Macau. Wang assured, with a small smile. I even got scared when I saw him attack your crotch. Smiling in turn, Shang-Chi questioned him. If we fail the test, our universe is doomed? I think, in that case, I think I would have no choice but to win this event and get back as soon as possible, before I get killed. New York. A few minutes later, 4 people came back to where Strange and Wang had spoken to the two spirits. It was nice of you to give Katie an autograph. Shang-Chi said. Actually, I just wanted her to stop hovering around me. I don't really appreciate someone showing so much enthusiasm. Me, she barely noticed me. Emil remarked. Still, women are supposed to like bad boys. You're above that category. Wang retorted. Thank you, I've been waiting for you. Surprised, the quartet saw a man in front of them, quietly sitting on a chair, with a cup of tea in his hand. Who are you? Stanley, the man stated with a rather robotic voice. Stepping forward, Wang pretended to attack him. Nevertheless, Strange stopped him, as he seemed to sense the man's aura, which was the same as living tribunals. I guess you'll be our cab. You can sum up my role like this. Then, Stan looked at the people in front of him. So, here are the selected warriors. However, if I remember correctly, I had asked for 3 warriors for this event. I'm only here to witness the ordeal and hear what Zeno will say. Very good. As long as you don't intervene, spectators are allowed. Then, getting up, he tapped his foot on the ground and the whole group suddenly disappeared. That's it for now. Please like, comment, and subscribe for a part 2.